Hi Blade Forums and YouTube. John here today. Today I'm going to do a review on the Benchmade 940. This particular one I've had since I bought it new, almost 2 years ago now. This has been my favorite knife so far of my collection. I've gone through maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 different knives trying to find the perfect EDC, everyday carry knife, and this is what has come closest to perfect. It's not perfect in everything, but it comes very close. It comes closer in more categories than any other knife I've had. I give this higher marks in more categories than any other knife, and I'll show those marks towards the end of the video that I gave it. So starting off on the review, the knife is a carbon fiber handle as opposed to the standard 940, which came in aluminum, anodized in the green color. The steel on the knife is the CPM S90V. It holds an edge for a very long time and actually takes a very sharp edge. But my favorite trait about the S90V is how aggressive it cuts, and also while being corrosion resistant. I just think that's huge. As far as the build of the knife, you have an open build. So as you can see here, you can see all the way through. It makes it very easy to clean out. It has partial liners in here, mainly for the operation of the axis lock. So it gives it a place for the lock bar to travel back and forth, but it also does reinforce the knife a little bit too. The tang goes back about 3/4 of the way in the handle. You can see it right there. You can see where the shiny part stops. That's where the liner goes to. Okay, not the tang, the liner. Okay, so that's about 3/4 of the way back. And so the lockup is solid. There's no movement. There's no up and down movement. There's no left and right movement. It's solid, and it's always been that way for me. I've never had a blade play issue with this. I know some access locks do, but I think Benchmade really nailed down the design on this one. I think when they went from the old 940 to this one, not only did they upgrade the knife, but they actually, I think, improved the tolerances. You have the blue anodized aluminum standoffs here, which I just think they're beautiful. They're like a sapphire kind of blue color. And another part that I like is, if you can see in the video, you can see the weave of the carbon fiber on the top of the blade here. It's just beautiful, and the way it just blends in with the subtle jimping on the top. Not aggressive, but subtle. The carbon fiber, it's not slick, but it's not rough either. It's just got a very subtle texture, and that texture, to me, makes it just enough for light to moderately heavy EDC use. The texture on here is also great for slipping into your pocket. The blade, the handle is not so smooth it's going to come sliding out of your pocket at every chance, but it's not so rough that it's going to tear up your pockets. One of my favorite attributes about this knife is it does not tear up my pockets. With my dress pants, my FRN knives, and my G10 knives, they've always torn up pockets. This has not done anything. And with the addition of the spoon clip that comes with it, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I've tried the other Benchmade clips, and this one is my favorite. Reasons for that is because of how easy it slips into my pocket. I don't even have to think about it, because there's a nice distance between the tip of the clip here and the body of the knife. So it just slides right over the seam of the pocket, no problem. Also, that raised area on the front, the spoon, this acts as a great grip when you're pulling it out of your pocket. So your finger just pulls right up on it, and you're in the right place to snap it open. So it makes for very quick deployment as well. So this knife, I like it because you can draw it fast, open it fast, close it fast, and put it back in your pocket fast. And so to me that's really nice. The knife is ambidextrous, partially because of the axis lock, but also because the handle is tapped on both sides, so you can do tip up carry on either your right side or your left side. The ergonomics of the knife are great. It's a very grip neutral knife. There's no real cutouts or anything. There's a nice palm swell here. As you can see, it contours nicely to the palm of your hand, so it gives you the freedom of using lots of different styles of grips, and while still maintaining comfort and a solid grip on the knife. This thing has never slipped out of my hands. Plus, sometimes I choke up onto the blade. I'll have my fingers up here, or even kind of like using it like a pencil to get at something with the fine point. So it's a very, very useful blade shape. It's kind of funky looking blade shape to me, but it's very useful. As far as the blade goes, the blade is not finished as well as some of the other Benchmade knives, and I'm attributing that to the fact that the steel is so hard to grind. It didn't come with such a nice satiny finish as my M390 from Benchmade. However, the grind is still good. It still looks good. It's kind of like a stone wash, kind of satin finish, and it works out quite well. You can see here it looks good. And this is after years of use, and as you notice, there's no scratches on the knife blade here. The knife blade looks like it came from the factory, and that is one of the major benefits I'm also finding on this 940-1 is it keeps looking like new after all these years. And I imagine it's going to continue looking new. It's not like the metal scales where you get dents and dings and chips and scratches. This thing holds up well. But not only that, the handle is still relatively tough. Even though it's carbon fiber and it can be brittle, I have dropped this on concrete twice, and it just left a little mark on the top of the handle here. But you can only really barely just see it with the right lighting and if you look closely. As far as the blade, because the blade is so heavy, it has so much momentum when you open it, it just swings out so smooth. Probably one of the smoothest opening knives you'll ever find. And it has phosphor bronze bearing or washers. It's not using the bearing systems. So to me that's a good thing for reliability and longevity of the knife. You can see the carbon fiber sparkle, you know, in the light. It's a beautiful, beautiful carbon fiber weave. If you notice, the handle is 3D contoured. I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but yeah, there you go. You can see how the handle lifts up here, and that also enhances the grip that you have on this knife. Now, as far as slicing goes, this is not the sliciest of knives, because it's not a full flat grind, and also it's not the thinnest of blade stocks, but it is a thin blade stock though. The blade stock is somewhere slightly under, I believe, 0.12 of an inch. The grind, it's thin enough to slice. I would say it's proficient at slicing, just it does not excel at slicing, but still retaining enough thickness to have some tough use. Say if you're going out camping or hiking, you can see the blade tapers up, not too slow, but not too fast. So it makes it a good all-around cutter. If you're looking for the best slicer, this is not it. But if you're looking for something that cuts well and can still slice an apple or a tomato, this knife will do it. And that's one unique feature I found in this knife that a lot of other knives don't do well at. And so on here for the steel, the edge holding, this edge is held really well in all my use. You're not going to hold a razor edge forever. That will wear out just like any other knife. But this knife will just keep cutting day in and day out. And even once it starts to feel dull on the edge, it still keeps sharpening. It's kind of, you have to get used to it. It's normally when you feel a certain dullness, you're like, okay, I have to sharpen it. And when you feel that, then you try cutting, it keeps going. And that's one thing that's very unique about the S90. I kind of consider it to be like a saw. Now as far as size goes, you're looking at a pretty big knife, 3.44 inch blade. Overall length, you're looking at just under 8 inches. But for that big of a knife with that much blade, you're coming in at under 2.5 ounces, which is incredible. For comparison, here's a Valet from Benchmade, which I really consider this to be a mini 940, because you can tell Benchmade was inspired by Osborne's design here. When you look at it, you can see the handle grip is very similar. Where the knife differs is with the blade shape. This has more kind of a spear drop point shape, where this one has the Osborne reverse Tanto design. To me, this is really the more useful blade, although this one looks pretty sweet. But this one was an M390. This was one I was telling you about that you can see it has a nicer grind on the knife blade. As far as the clips go, that's the clip it comes with stock, but these are 2 other clips that I picked up to try them out, and I really did try these out thoroughly, and after experimenting with them I really went back to this, because even though it's not a looker and it's not the deep clip that everyone wants these days, because you know, just about 3/8 of an inch of the knife sticks out above the pocket line, this knife pocket clip really does make it easy to put the knife back in your pocket and also to draw it. And it also enhances your grip a little bit too, because at least for me, the part of this clip here, it lines up with my middle finger. and so it makes it for a very comfortable grip. It doesn't create any hot spots. It doesn't dig into my hand in any way like some other clips have. So as far as the knife goes, I have it sharpened. Just to show you my sharpness test I've showed before. Here's cutting through a paper towel. Now listen to this. You hear how easy that cuts through there? Piece of phone book paper. So this is very sharp. So you can hear that. And then paper. I don't intend to do a cut test with this knife, just because I know it's going to go through a lot of cuts. Because the Sage 3 and S30V did over 1,000 cuts, I know this will probably be somewhere in that ballpark or more. So I just don't feel like doing that, because also there's a lot of sharpening involved, and S90 does not want to give up its steel. It's really quite a beast to sharpen. But I mean, it's not too bad if you know what you're doing, but it's going to take you longer. Even if you know what you're doing, it's still going to take more time because it just does not want to give up the metal. Furthermore, this knife has destroyed it's worn out my Spyderco Sharpmaker brown rods faster than any other knife. So something about this S90V, it's kind of hard on at least the brown Spyderco ceramics. Now, here's the review I wrote up, just a little scoring system I came up with based on my use and my experience over 2 years. So as far as carry and drawing and deploying of the knife, it carries very well in the pocket, very slim. You don't even notice it's there. I mean, you'll forget about it, so you have to be careful when you're going to the airport. You don't want to lose this. As far as drawing it, like I said, because of this little swell on the clip, it makes it come out of your pocket so easily. And then being a Benchmade access lock, I mean, it speaks for itself. It flies open. Okay, sorry, cut out there. So as far as slicing goes, this one is not a sliceaholic. I gave the carry a 5 out of 5. For slicing ability, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Okay, to me a 5 is the Delica and full flat grind and the Sage 3. Those to me are 5. Okay, to me the ZT 450 on the other hand, this is like a 2.5, a 2 or a 2.5 in my opinion. This knife, the grind gets so thick, so fast, that it's just, as soon as it starts to lose its edge a little, it gets difficult to cut through paper. When you try to cut an apple, it just wedges it apart like a railroad spike. So this to me is a 1 or a 2, maybe 2.5 at best. With the Delica full flat grind or Sage 3, to me these are 5s. These are as good as they get. Very thin edge, very gradual taper to the top. Okay, so this I find somewhere in the middle. So I gave this a 3.5 because this will still slice the tomatoes, it'll still slice the apples, and it'll still do all your regular cutting tasks, just not as effectively as that. So 3.5 out of 5. Ergonomics, I gave it a perfect 5 because it's a neutral grip. It fits anyone's hands, almost anyone's hands, just right. You can find several comfortable grips on here. So that's something that right here, because it has a narrow handle, you can get a comfortable grip when you're doing this to peel the skin off of an apple. So that is not so easy to do on the Sage because it's a much wider knife. It's hard to grip it like that. You end up having to use the flat of your palm. Delica is a little bit better, but it's still not ideal because again, it's just, I don't know, it's not as bad as the Sage. It's still pretty good actually, but not as good as this. This has a more comfortable grip in more positions than any other knife I've tried so far. Okay, so ergonomics, I give it a 5 out of 5. Cutting, edge, performance, and use. I also gave this a 5 out of 5 because one of the benefits of this being about a 3.5 inch blade is it will cut through an apple in one slice. You don't have to cut from one end and go on to the other end. Okay. Also, the edge, the S90 is so aggressive, and like I said, it keeps cutting even after it feels dull because it has such a like a saws type edge. It's just an amazing cutter. And just as far as use, the shape of the blade is very conducive to lots of different types of cuts. Okay, whether you're slicing, whether you're cutting rope, whether you're chopping up produce, it just works for so many different cuts. And last but not least is maintenance. It gets the lowest rating on maintenance, and that's because of the steel being so hard to sharpen. It would have been lower, but what brings up maintenance is the open back design. because it's open, it's very easy to clean out and lubricate the knife. So this really, for ease of cleaning, oiling, maintenance, that's a 5 out of 5. This really is like a 1, maybe a 1.5 or 2 out of 5 as far as edge sharpening goes. So all in all, what we come up with is 21.5 out of 25. That's my rating that I give to the knife. And what you get with that is 86%. And to me, that's a very good rating. Just with quick tabulations of my other knives that I like, they were mostly getting 80, 75, and 70%. So to me, that's really high. My favorite knife here, I highly recommend it to anyone looking for a quality knife. The price is kind of high in America. The price goes for about $260 to $270, whether you go into a retail store or whether you buy it online. Benchmade has pretty standard pricing. So that's my review on the Benchmade 940, and thank you very much for viewing this, guys. Let me know what you think. Bye.